You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Welcome to the Believe in the Ravens podcast. I'm your host once again, Bo Smolka, joined by my co-host, former Ravens tight end Daniel Wilcox. And we are going to be breaking down the Ravens and the Bills, previewing what a lot of people consider to be the marquee matchup of Week 4, as Buffalo comes to town, an AFC Super Bowl contender, and in some ways the Ravens are as well. And we will break down that game, what it's going to look like when Buffalo comes to Baltimore on Sunday. Before we do that, I want to remind you that all Believe in the Ravens podcasts are sponsored by Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-the-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, golf, combat sports, esports at Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information with live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to Bet Online today or use your mobile device to join and make your first bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV50, to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Daniel Wilcox, to this week, the Buffalo Bills come to town. As I said, a lot of people see this as a potential AFC championship preview. Josh Allen and the number one passing offense in the league right now against a Baltimore Ravens team led by Lamar Jackson, who has played at an MVP level through 3 games. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are always going to be linked because they came into the league together in that 2018 draft class. And remember, there were 5 quarterbacks taken in that year, in that first round, and neither of them was the first one. Baker Mayfield went, Sam Darnold went, and then Josh Allen went at number 7. Josh Rosen was taken at number 10 overall that year. And then, of course, the Ravens traded back into the first round. After selecting Hayden Hurst earlier, they traded back into the first round and selected Lamar Jackson at number 32 overall. So Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson will always be linked together. And I don't know, Daniel Wilcox, what do you think? There's been so much talk about Josh Allen and what he does to this team, to the Bills offense. And I know you've said before you don't think Lamar Jackson gets the respect he deserves. What do you think Lamar Jackson comes into this game feeling, staring over Josh Allen on the other sideline?
You know, I think there's so much going on right now in the media, just back and forth. You know, every time you see posting, who's the number one quarterback in the league, and Josh Allen name pops up all the time, but not Lamar Jackson name pops up. You know, I think it definitely, Lamar has a chip on his shoulder. I think he came into the league with a chip on his shoulder, you know, being the last quarterback drafted in the first round that year with all these guys going in front of him. He's outplayed every single quarterback drafted in front of him. The only one that you could put up as a comparison is the Josh Allen, you know, comparison. So I think him coming in right now till Baltimore to play at Lamar Jackson's home, you know, and to come in, you know, everybody's still having these conversations about Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league and not even mentioning Lamar in that conversation. I think Lamar has something to prove. I think he'll have a chip on his shoulder. I think he had one on his shoulder from the draft, you know, and I think it's going to continue to carry over into this game. I think you'll see a high intensity, a well-prepared, you know, well-studied, you know, well-oiled machine in number 8. Lamar Jackson. I think he's coming to play this week, and he's coming to prove a point, you know, to show the world that, hey, man, when you start talking about the number one quarterback in this league, you know, mention my name. You know, he got that Michael Jordan, that Kobe Bryant type killer instinct, and I think it's going to show up this week, man. I'm excited to see this game. This is going to be such a high-profile game and such a great game, and I can't think of a better atmosphere for it to be played in Baltimore.
I'll say this, Lamar Jackson tends to really be motivated by failure or when things don't go well. And one of the worst games he's played, or one of the worst games the Ravens have played in his tenure, was at Buffalo in the playoffs a few years ago. They scored 3 points in the first 3 quarters. And then, of course, he left with a concussion after he hit his head, and that was the end of their season. So that's the last time they faced Buffalo, and Buffalo did a great job against him defensively. We'll get to that in a minute. First, let's talk about this Buffalo Bills offense. As you said, it runs through Josh Allen, and they're the number one passing offense in the league. And they've got Stefon Diggs, the former Maryland Terrapin, who was drafted in the 5th round. And a lot of people here in Baltimore say that's the one that got away. Maryland native, went to Maryland and lasted into the 5th round. The Ravens had 3 fourth-round picks that year, and they did not take Diggs. and
Sucks.
he is one that the Ravens fans really, really wish had stayed at home. But if you're the Ravens, and Stefon Diggs leads the league right now with 344 receiving yards, Daniel Wilcox, you're the Ravens. You have Marlon Humphrey, you have Marcus Peters, you have Marcus Williams. You have this whole secondary built to defend. How are you defending Stefon Diggs if you're Mike McDonald and that Ravens defense?
It's all to me. It's all about disrupting timing, for him, for Diggs and Josh Allen. You don't want to put them in a situation where they're running free routes, they're getting free releases off the line of scrimmage, and nobody's giving them respect over the top. So I think you got to press him at the line to disrupt his time and getting off the ball. So Josh Allen has to pat that ball once or twice before he throws it, or go to a second or third read. Because if you give him free releases off the line of scrimmage all day, he's going to run everything under the sun. He can run every single route in the route tree, and he's a phenomenal route runner. And his timing, he understands, zone versus man and coverage and where to sit down at. He knows those pockets in the cover 4s and the cover 3s and the cover 2s that we like to run. So I think he'll eat you up if you don't disrupt his timing. Even if you go cover 2, I still press him at the line of scrimmage, even in zone coverage. I will put hands on them early. We got long DBs with long arms. They can get hands on them and jam them and disrupt that time and getting off the ball, which is slow Josh Allen down. If he has to pat that ball once or twice, that gives our lineman a chance to get at him and touch him a little bit and rattle him a little bit. And I think you got to hit him every single opportunity you can so that he gets used to picking himself up off the ground. I remember Billick used to say this all the time. We want him to get so fatigued by the fourth quarter by picking himself up off the ground just alone. It's just like doing the worst exercise in training is burpee. It's like doing a burpee. You knock him down, you got to do a burpee to get up every single time, right? So if you do that, if he has to get up about 30 times, that's 30 burpees in the game. And that's how I look at it. Get Josh Allen on the ground, disrupt timing at the line of scrimmage with Stefon Diggs, and make him understand that he should have stayed in Maryland. He need to be trying to get back home because that's where he belongs anyway. But, at the end of the day, it's about not giving him clean looks and make everything that he catches be contested. So he has a rough and long day. By the end of the day, he should be so exhausted from trying to get off the line of scrimmage and trying to run his routes with people banging him and bumping him all the way up and down the field and trying to catch a ball just to get open. I think you rough him up, you give him a lot of attention and make those other receivers beat you. Your Jamison Crowders, your Isaiah McKenzie's, those guys, make those guys beat you and just make Stefon Diggs have one of the, the most physically exhausting days that he's ever had as a wide receiver.
I would think that would probably fall to Marlon Humphrey. He's going to be the biggest, most physical guy that can lock him up at the line of scrimmage briefly. And frankly, that's why you've paid Marlon Humphrey the big money. You want him to defend in the biggest moments. And this is clearly one of the biggest moments. I'm sure Marlon Humphrey will be up for the challenge. I mean, he will be motivated by the challenge. Whether he can win the challenge remains to be seen. But that's, I think, whether he lines up outside, whether Diggs is outside, whether Diggs is in the slot, I think Marlon Humphrey is the guy. If you're going to try to jam him on the line of scrimmage, I think Marlon Humphrey is the one to do it. Getting to Josh Allen's another question, though, because he's a big guy, 6'5", 237, I think they list him at. And, I mean, he can extend plays and he can run. He's one of the better runners. He's probably the second best running quarterback in the league. So he can create if he can extend the play. And this, again, comes down to the pass rush. Can they get to the quarterback? I'm still waiting for Odafe Owe to make an impact this year. Still has not had a sack, still has not had a quarterback hit, and it's been disappointing for him. They've got to get him turned loose and be disruptive. And we'll talk about Jason Pierre-Paul. Jason Pierre-Paul has joined the team officially. He practiced yesterday. I think he's going to play. To some extent, I think he will play. John Harbaugh said yesterday, well, if we can get him up to speed, we'd like to get him in there. I don't think they can afford not to. Justin Houston, remember, he left the New England game with a groin injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday. So Justin Houston may not be available. They cannot continue to expect Calais Campbell to play nearly every defensive snap or they'll lose him too. So I think Jason Pierre-Paul will have to be in the game. And maybe he just comes in situational moments where it's obviously passing situation. Your job is just get to the quarterback. But I think Justin Houston will have to be in there. The other news for the Ravens on the defensive front, Michael Pierce tore his bicep against New England. That was confirmed by John Harbaugh yesterday, and Michael Pierce is going to have surgery, so it looks like he will be done for the year, and that's a big loss. I don't know if it's a huge loss in this game specifically because he was more of the run stuffer, and this is a team that wants to operate through the air more, but it's a big loss for this team. They lose Michael Pierce most likely for the season. So they're going to have to defend, as you said, Stefon Diggs. It's all going to start with him, and I think watching Stefon Diggs versus Marlon Humphrey, and maybe Marcus Peters will be two of the more very, very interesting things to watch. The Ravens, of course, come in with a pass defense that's ranked dead last in the league. Part of that was the collapse against Miami.
Yeah.
And then early in the game last week at New England, Jalen Armour-Davis started and got beat a few times, and he was out. Brandon Stevens came in, and the Patriots picked on him. But Marcus Peters is back to almost full health, and Marlon Humphrey, they both played almost every snap against New England. So we can assume they're fully ready to go, and that's going to be very, very big in this game. And like I said, this is why you pay this defense, to defend an offense like this. So that will be very interesting to watch. Now let's look at this Buffalo defense, because as I said, when they played Buffalo in the playoffs in 2020, the Ravens scored 3 points. And, Lamar Jackson leaves with a concussion, but that was a 3-3 game in the third quarter. And it all turned when Lamar Jackson tried to force a pass into Mark Andrews in the end zone. It was returned for a 101-yard interception return by Teron Johnson. And then you kind of felt like the game was over, because there was no point at which the Ravens looked like they were going to come up with 17 points against that defense. The Ravens may or may not have Ronnie Stanley. He practiced fully on Wednesday for the first time all year. And so maybe they've got Ronnie Stanley for this game. If not, again, it appears that rookie Daniel Faalele may have to start at left tackle. He's never played left tackle until last week when he filled in for the injured Patrick McCary, who did not practice on Wednesday. And on the other side of the line of scrimmage, you're staring at Greg Rousseau and Von Miller, who already have 5.5 sacks and are just a beast coming off the edge. So if you are Daniel Faalele, or if, let's say, you are John Harbaugh and you're trying to look at an offensive line that's going to be starting Daniel Faalele and you have Von Miller across from him, how are you scheming up your offense to give Daniel Faalele help and defend Von Miller?
Oh, Bo, you already know. You know exactly what I'm doing. I'm putting Daniel Wilcox back there in the backfield so he could chip Von Miller as many times as he possibly can. I'm motioning over Ricard so Ricard could chip and help. I'm shifting tight ends, and I might go overset with an extra O lineman or something. I'm gonna do whatever I can to help prevent, to keep him out of my backfield. I mean, that dude is an absolute terror. Von Miller has been playing this game for a long time. Got 2 Super Bowls underneath his belt because he's so outstanding on finding the right team at the right time and pitching in and doing his job, man. And, when you got guys like that, you have to make it a hard, long day for them. One of the things that I love when you play against big D linemen, when the offensive coordinator come up with a scheme, a game plan to tire those guys out. We're going to run sideline to sideline to get these guys exhausted, right? Because they're so big. When you got guys like Von Miller, they can run all day. So that sideline to sideline stuff don't even work. It won't even slow this guy down. It'd probably help him if you try to go sideline to sideline. You run right to him if you go his way, and then you run away from him, he can run you down from the backside. So you got to run right at guys like Von Miller. So you put a big guy like Faalele on him, and then you have somebody else come over to help double team him. Or, you double team him with the guard, you double team him with the tight end, you double team him with an extra lineman, and then you have, running backs, your tailbacks, your fullbacks, chip them, and they put him on his butt once or twice to slow him down when he comes off the edge of the line of scrimmage. And then you have to mix up how you block him. You cut him every now and then, just to slow him down. Hey, I will cut you. Don't get it twisted, and then you come back and you fake like you're going to cut him, and then you hit him right in his mouth, so you got to do all these little things to kind of mix it up. And there's so many tricks to the trade to make people think you're going to do something that you're not going to do, just to slow them down one step. A lot of time it's that one step that slows them down, and they don't get to the quarterback in time to move. And when you got a guy like Lamar Jackson, he's going to make your wrong right. So to me, as an O lineman or a tight end or a running back that has to block anybody, that gives me confidence in knowing if I miss this guy, just go to the next guy, because most likely Lamar is going to make him miss anyway. So if you got a quarterback like that, he saves your butt more times than anything. He doesn't hurt you. It's bad when you got a quarterback that antsy in the pocket. He just moves left, moves right too much, and then he gives a sack up that he shouldn't have had to give because he could have sat still. But Lamar's not that guy. He's excellent in the freaking pocket. He has great pocket awareness. He feels the pocket collapses, and he's out like a torpedo before you even realize that he's up the field 2 or 3 yards. So I think to me, chipping them, putting double teaming them as many times as you can, and just keeping them off your quarterback, because if you don't, it'll be a long day for Lamar.
And it's not just Von Miller. Greg Rousseau has 3.5 sacks already, and they get pressure up the middle too.
Yeah,
With
that's the Von Miller effect,
guys.
though.
I mean, and so it's going to be a challenge for the offensive line. I will say the one biggest concern for the Bills has to be their secondary is really banged up. I mean, they've got, Tre'Davious White is still on the PUP list. Micah Hyde has gone to IR after getting hurt. Dane Jackson, you remember, he left in an ambulance a couple of weeks ago in the game. Christian Benford would be a starting cornerback, broke his hand. He's a Baltimore native, actually went to Randallstown High School, and so he won't be playing. They've got a lot of injuries in that secondary, so that's something. If Lamar Jackson can get time, you would think that the Ravens should have the ability, with Rashad Bateman and especially the way Devin Duvernay is playing, to maybe make an impact in that secondary against a secondary that's going to be shorthanded. Of course, it's going to all start with Mark Andrews, and I think the thing that Lamar Jackson has to be careful not to do is force those throws in, as he did on that 101-yard interception, which was just a throw into triple coverage, basically. But this Bills defense, especially in the defensive secondary, is nowhere near what they wanted it to be because of injuries. So I know a lot of people are always saying about the Ravens injuries, but the Bills are dealing with significant injuries in the secondary as well. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the Ravens attack it. And does Lamar Jackson get time? And can they establish the run, right? Because if they can establish the run, that changes things. I think we'll probably see more of J.K. Dobbins this week. You mentioned he looked a little timid in his first game back, but I would expect we'll see more of him.
Me too.
And we'll see more of Justice Hill. And one of the things that'll really be interesting to watch, and you brought it up a minute ago, is which of these running backs can pass protect? Because whichever running back they feel can pass protect is probably going to be on the field more than the others, because they're going to have to contribute there.
Dobbins.
I can totally see a situation where Lamar Jackson is bottled up and suddenly it turns into a 35-yard run because he can outrun those defenders, although Von Miller these guys are so fast.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing to bring up, Daniel Wilcox. The Bills come in as a 3.5-point favorite to M&T Bank Stadium. Lamar Jackson, in his career as a starter with Baltimore, has been an underdog at home twice, and he has won both games, not just covered. They won the game both times. He was an underdog here in Baltimore when New England came to town in 2019, and the Ravens ran them out of the building. I believe it was a Sunday night game. And then last year they were an underdog when Kansas City came to town. And if you remember, that was the day that Odafe Owe got a big strip sack, and the Ravens went on 4th down with about a minute to go, got the first down, and got the win. So they are 2-0. When Lamar Jackson is a home underdog, he will be highly motivated. And I think John Harbaugh teams tend to really get up for the moment when in that kind of situation. I expect the Ravens will be on point this weekend. Do they have the defense to contend? We'll see. What do you think the biggest keys are for the Ravens to win this game?
I think it's going to be the defensive secondary. I think it's going to be the defensive secondary all day. I don't think we've played very well this year. The fact that we're ranked dead last and we got probably the best DBs in the entire league, with Marlon Humphrey and company. I feel like we're way better than what we've been doing. And we've caused turnovers week in and week out. So it's kind of funny that we're last in the league, because I know we got to be close to first in turnovers, if not first, So we got to continue to cause turnovers, and we got to figure out a way to get the ball in the end zone on the defensive side of the ball. We got to do some takeaways. Every good quarterback will always give you an opportunity to pick them off every game. It's just whether or not you're going to catch it or not, right? Brett Favre used to give you 4 chances every game, and guys would drop it. It would be like the most dumbest drops you've ever seen. Hit them right in the hands, hit them in the face mask, hit them in the chest, hit them in the stomach, and they still dropping the ball, bobbling the ball. So every good quarterback is going to give you a shot to pick them off. We have to take advantage of every opportunity we get this game, and we can't let Josh Allen get away with anything. He's one thing I can say about him. He's really poised in the pocket, and he's really good at extending plays. Kind of reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger a little bit, just a smaller version that could run a little bit faster. And he's fine. He's not greedy, and I think that's what was most impressive about Tom Brady. Tom Brady will beat you with just dinking and dunking all game long, and then he'll hit you over the top because now you got tired of him dinking and dunking. And that's one thing I see with Josh Allen. He's very patient, man. He just takes his time, stands up in the pocket. He delivers to the open guy every single time. Never passes him up, takes him. He's opening flats. He's getting it right now. My first read is open. He's getting it right now. I'm not waiting for number 2. I'm not trying to, force the number 3 because I want that throw right now. he's taking what the defense gives him. And I think that's why he's one of the top ranked quarterbacks in the league right now. He's playing excellent football and he's not turning the ball over a lot. But every week you see somebody drop one that they should have had. And we have to have our hand games on point this week. We got our entire secondary need to be on our special teams hands team this week, and they need to play with great hands, great vision, great anticipation, and study their butts off because this guy's coming. He's coming here to beat you in Baltimore at your home stadium. We've already lost one at home this year. I don't want to lose two. It's our time to shine this week. Secondary, let's go.
And you mentioned the drop passes. Patrick Queen dropped an interception, literally hit him in the number 6
every week.
Last weekend. And I think Patrick Queen is a key guy in this game. He's been up and he's been down, because the Bills will also use their running backs as receivers quite often. And that's a guy that Patrick Queen's probably gonna have to key on at times and then make the tackle. Yes. The tackling has not been sharp that much, especially by the linebackers so far. So I think Patrick Queen will be key. And as you said, they've got 6 interceptions already this year. They only had 9 all of last season. So the interceptions have come. And
we've dropped at least 3 or 4, Bo, that I can remember. I remember Williams dropping one. He had 2 picks in one game and dropped the third one.
He dropped the third one play before the Dolphins hit one of their long touchdown passes. It was literally the play before that. He could have had 3 interceptions in that game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right. There are opportunities. And so a turnover or 2 would be extremely big for this team. And they, as I said, they built this defense to be opportunistic and to create turnovers. That was one of their primary priorities in this offseason, was create more playmaking on defense. And we saw it last week with Kyle Hamilton forcing an interception, and Humphrey and Peters both had interceptions, Hamilton forced a fumble rather that Peters recovered. And then, of course, Peters and Humphrey both had interceptions, and so did Josh Bynes when he dropped into coverage. So turnovers will be key. It's Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson. And if you talk to Lamar Jackson, he says, hey, I'm not playing against Josh Allen. I'm playing against the Bills defense. And he's right. But nationally, the narrative is Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson, because that's just how it works with quarterbacks. They always think the quarterbacks play each other. It should be a great game in Baltimore on Sunday. I will say we are scheduled to get maybe the remnants of the hurricane. Hurricane Ian is coming up the eastern seaboard. It's a chance that it will be a wet Sunday, and that could also affect. I don't think we're looking at downpours or anything, but it is supposed to be a wet weekend in Baltimore, so that could affect the passing game. We'll see. It's a couple days away still, but weather could be a factor in this game. But it should be a terrific matchup. The Ravens and the Bills. A lot of people consider it an AFC championship preview. There's a lot of football before we get there, but this will be a very good litmus test for this Ravens team and the Bills team to see where they stand in the pecking order. That's the Ravens and the Bills Sunday, 1 p.m. M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. And we'll be back on Monday to break down that game and see exactly what happened and why. For Daniel Wilcox, this is Bo Smolka, host of the Believe in the Ravens podcast, presented by Bet Online.